And the next speaker, Dr. Virupaksha Biswas, MBBS and clinical and interventional pathologist with a special interest in hepatology, geriatric medicine, and critical care medicine from India, to give a valuable speech on hepatocellular carcinoma and extracellular vessels from pathology and microbial crosstalk to therapeutic strategies.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot. Straight away, I have 30 minutes, I believe, and I'm going to straight away jump into the presentation part. Well, this is where I'm going to talk about hepatocellular carcinoma and extracellular vesicles from pathology and microbial crosstalk to therapeutic strategies. Well, the first one. As all of you know, liver cancer is the third leading cause of cancer deaths globally. And hepatocellular carcinoma is almost, it takes up 90% of all the liver neoplasms. And of course, late diagnosis plus therapy resistance is the problem. Now, when I was scripting this particular part, one molecule in which I was focusing was sorafenib. Why sorafenib went out of the league? So let's go and meet this, the villain, the bigger one, the biggest villain rather, extracellular vesicles. These carry proteins, lipids, RNAs, and some few more metabolites, like molecular WhatsApp messages, released by almost every cell, and they are curated communication capsules, nanometer size membranes, bound parcels which are coated by the plasma membrane, and they are thrown out to accelerate the mayhem in HCC, hepatocellular carcinoma. The types of EVs, I call it the family tree. You have exosomes, which come from endosomes. Endosomes derive everything from the Golgi apparatus, transfer it to the exosomes, and exosomes actually, they create the mayhem, as I said. You have microvesicles. Of course, it depends on the diameters, as you can see. And the final one being apoptotic bodies. You can think this as cupcakes, muffins, and loaves, all the three. They all are baked differently, but do share the same ingredient. And what is it? To create a catastrophe. Right. So why does HCC often fall in love with this extracellular vesicles? Why do HCC love EVs? Like HCCs tweak the EV cargo. They pull in the EV cargo. For what? For angiogenesis, metastasis, and immune invasion. Yeah, and in fact, the worst part being, I've given it on an analogy down there to make it slightly humorous. They're like sending movers before you relocate. They even prepare distant home. That is what I want to point out. Pre-metastatic niches before moving. And that is the worst part of the entire thing. Fine, you are working on a particular stuff, you're working on HCC, that's all right. But after that, even after that, they do not stop to that. They even pull off the catastrophe to a very different level. They form distant homes where the tumor cells can thrive and survive. Well, next. So the review was built from 300 papers, adhering to the PRISMA guidelines. and 12 high-impact studies were selected. And they were selected on mechanistic, preclinical, clinical, and clinical domains, as I have outlined in the slide. The studies were taken from 2016 to 2024. Well, this may be a limitation, but yes, we did receive, or we did get the note of sorafenib resistance, say in the late 2015s or something like that, as the literature says.
Oh, I'm not seeing any slides. Is it normal?
Yes, hello?
Hello, I'm not seeing slides. Did you share your slides or are there no slides?
I do not get you, sir.
Okay.
So could I finish my stuff and then answer your questions?
Sorry, Dr. Virupaksha Biswas. Sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah, could you please share your presentation so that will be really nice to have it?
Yeah. So there are 12 studies, as I have said. So let's focus on study number 2 and 3. Zhu et al. At 2020 and Kowal et al. At 2019.
Dr. Viruprakash, your slides are not being shared. We are not able to see your slides.
Is that possible? I've just shared my screen. Just hold on. I have just shared my screen. Share. Choose side level to see the contents of the screen. Yes, of course. Chrome tab, window, entire screen. Entire screen, yeah. Share. Why I'm not getting the share button? Is it window? Is it Chrome tab? Select a tab to share. Let's see. Now is it all right? Now is it all right? Hello? Hello? Now is it all right?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Actually, I'm not very well versed with Webex. So this is what it is. It was actually. Should I start from the beginning or should I continue?
No need to start from the beginning.
Yeah. This particular study was developed when I actually went about thinking why sorafenib in HCC went off the league, and that is where I after studying all of these came to a point that EVs, extracellular vesicles, were the main culprits. That's the bottom line, because I'm on the 5th or 4th slide right now, and I have 30 minutes. Let me tell you, we'll focus on the studies. Study number 2, Zhu et al. 2020. They actually did confer sorafenib resistance. You can see on the next one, Wall et al. They suppresses the NK cytotoxicity. Of course, with other studies, they promote angiogenesis. They differentiated HCC from cirrhosis. This is not that important, but still it comes in the literature. It's a published paper that I have already published it in one of the journals. And study number 5, distinguished malignant from non-malignant liver disease. The basic point in all this, the basic one in all of these is study number 2, which becomes very important. Well, the next line, you can see this. Once again, in study number 8, Lu et al., 2022, they actually did restore sorafenib sensitivity. I'll come to this part later on. In study number 9, Wen et al., in mice, they could activate cytotoxic T cells to kill the tumor cells. And there were other studies as well. Let us speak about 11. You can see the study actually promoted the steamness via PDK AKT B-catenin pathway. I will come to all of this later on. Let me just I've just summarized those studies in 2 slides. Let me speak now about rest of the part. Okay. So here is the interesting part. Vesicle biogenesis and cargo sorting. How they're packaged. So there are 2 main routes. One is the endosomal pathway. Of course, the exosomes pull the stuff, the naughty stuff from the endosome and form MVBs, as you can see, multi-vesicular bodies, and they fuse with the plasma membrane and are released as exosomes. One is the plasma membrane binding. They directly bind to the plasma membrane and leave off. And the third one, apoptotic bodies. These are also released during this entire cascade as farewell packages filled with cellular fragments, which of course will cause a catastrophe more and more during the programmed cell death, which often happens in any kind of neoplasia in the body. So the sorting office, ESCRT complex, endosomal sorting complex required for transport, they act as a conveyor belt. They drive the membrane budding and cargo loading. Components like the Alex, these are the main culprits actually. I have just in all of my slides, I have actually pointed out the main culprits who actually confer or who actually make such kind of problems. TSG 101 and VPS4, they organize the tetrasplanins. They act as postal barcodes. That means they often designate that particular EV to act in a manner, of course, in a manner which will not be favorable, but they add these postal barcodes, the CD9, CD63, and CD81. And also there is ceramide pathway, which is lipid driven, and it serves as a backup packaging machine. If we are not done with ESCRT or tetrasplanins, the ceramide pathway will go and cause the problem. And what gets packed inside? The proteins, the addition molecules, receptors, various signaling kinases, the RNAs, the messenger RNAs, the microRNAs, the circular RNAs, the lipids and the metabolites, everything gets packed. And see how they work. The mRNAs and the microRNAs, they carry the generating instruction and regulatory codes. The circular RNAs, they add stability and the lipids and metabolites. They shape membrane fluidity and signal the neighboring cells. They do a lot of stuff. That's what I did find out from all these 12 studies. Then there is a process known as a quality check, which are done by exomotives, like, of course, HNAR, NP, A2B1, YBX1, whatever. They also add special zip codes on RNA sequences as to how to complicate the entire procedure. They decide which RNAs will be packed and which will stay behind. It's a precision made sorting at molecular scale. In simple words, each vesicle will mirror the molecular personality of its parent cell. This becomes very important. The take-home message, rather. So, of course, why does it matter in HCC? They alter the vesicle content under stress in their favor, of course. And these vesicles do carry various factors like VEGF, EMT inducers, and immune modulators. They also modify the time, the tumor microenvironment. They train the stromal cells, they pacify the immune cells, and scout the metastatic niches. It's unbelievable, actually. This is just an analogy. If a healthy cell is a polite officer sending an interdepartmental memo, a cancer cell is an office gossip, mass mailing, confidential info, manipulating colleagues, and occasionally forging signatures. This is just one small humorous analogy that I've added. Anyway, let's look at this part. Tumor promotion, the dark side. Now let me expose the absolutely murky side of extracellular vesicles. They induce the EMT epithelial mesenchymal transition. This is very important. Even in Barrett's, this happens. Even in a Barrett's esophagus, this do happen. Epithelia to a mesenchymal transition, or in other carcinomas. Say, for example, adenocarcinoma of the stomach, adenocarcinoma of the colon. We are talking about HCC. That's a different thing. They reprogram the stroma and the fibroblasts for their own benefit. They deposit integrins, which serve as velcro for the metastatic cells to remain together. And say, for example, I'll come to this part, RAP27A, which actually cuts the metastatic cells. They even block them. It has been found in one of the studies, and I have just pointed it out here. Immune modulation. How are they master manipulators? Now, this slide is a very specific one. For microRNA 23A, they silence the NK cells by NK cells and T cells too by down regulating the NKG2D receptor, which are found out there. You can see on the next one, 146A and 21, they turn the macrophages into tumor-friendly mode. And that is why I have said that they actually camouflage, they send a camouflaged peace treaties to the immune soldiers in order to confuse them as whom to attack and whom not to attack. So they are masters in manipulating the entire stuff. Next one. So of course, when it comes to diagnosis, we have AFP. And of course, when EV is the main culprit, we can easily catch hold of it via liquid biopsy, which is minimally invasive and highly sensitive. Like I have written, just a drop of blood can whisper tumor secrets. The next part. This is very important in the specific slide. What are the biomarkers that we can target for diagnosis and prognosis? Let's see the first one, EV-miRNA 21P versus 144-3P. So I believe the ratio was 21.5P by 144-3P. They show extreme diagnostic accuracy when we compare it to alpha-fetoprotein, because that is the only biomarker that we keep on using in countries like India and so on and so forth. On the next part, you can see microRNAs 10B, 122, 221 do correlate strongly with tumor size, with the aggressiveness of the tumor and the recurrence risk. And that is why I had said that this would actually focus on the prognostic part. The next one, distinct EV microRNAs. One is HBB, one is HCV. Both are very strong etiologies for HCC. For HBB, we have enriched 10B. For HCV, we have enriched 122 and 192. And there are plenty of other viruses. So, in order to make it short, I had given a line. Different viruses leave different molecular accents in the vesicles. And see the diagnostic power. From the ROC curve, we can easily determine the AUC, the area under the curve is greater than 90 for EV-miRNA panels. Right? It just outperforms, or it actually crashes off AFP as a diagnostic tool. Let's skip this part. I had already spoken on this. Okay. Clinical impact. This becomes important. So once we target this, non-invasive monitoring of tumor evolution and therapy response becomes at hand. We also have the potential to combine EV proteins and these RNAs for multi-layer diagnostic panels and also for precision targeted therapy. I will discuss about all the three later on in my next slides. And of course, in short, there's a few molecules and their impact on the hepatocellular carcinoma. You can all see on the slide itself, the EV cargo, PTGR, GRO, GR1. This enhances invasion and metastasis. The LNC RNA drives tumor aggressiveness. Other forms of RNA indicate disease progression. This is the one where I started to think.
The Dr. Sorry for the
Yeah, hello? Hello? Yeah?
Yes, doctor, your presentation is not visible. Please check it out.
Is it okay? Hello? I'm not getting you. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, your presentation is not visible to us.
Once again, just let
Yes,
me know.
doctor.
Please hold on. How is this possible? Yeah. Share. Why is it happening every time? Remains for text and messages. Why? Yeah. It's like don't tap. This. Share. Is it okay now? Ma'am, is it okay now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor.
Sorry, I don't know why this problem is happening. Anyway, I'm not a software engineer, so I do not know. Then once again, let me come back to the part. Sorafenib. This is a long-standing frontline therapy, as you all know, and was punched out with adaptive resistance. So what EV carries, I have said it. Just point on this part, the SOPCS1, the pointer, the SOPCS1, and their friends, they activate the AKT and MAPK pathways, keeping the cancer cells alive and multiplying. That is what I was saying all throughout. Let's forget this part. What are the future pharmacotherapeutic directions that we can have? One, of course, is the EV inhibition strategies. We block the EV release. Like, for example, I said in one of my slides, RAP27A inhibitors can be blocked. Or cargo packaging. You block the neutral sphingomyelase blockers. One is the EV-based drug therapy. This is very interesting, where we use these culprits to deliver certain drugs, which shall affect the cancer cells directly. One is the combination of all. You pair the EV blockade with checkpoint inhibitors. Checkpoint inhibitors, of course, we in today's day in oncology, we use TKIs. So these can be done for future pharmacotherapy directions. Let me come to this one by one. Cancer cells gossip through vesicles. Oh, maybe it's time we cut their Wi-Fi or send spam instead. And we are actually trying to send spam messages that we often have in our cell phones and all that. And this spam should be sent by EV to bring something to our favor, to kill the cancer cells. Okay, this is the one. You can see once again, it's complement C9, vitronectin, 63819, Alex, TSG101. You can see, you can clearly see one is the marker of immune escape. One will correlate with the metastatic potential. One is useful for EV-based diagnosis. One shall serve as a quality marker for EV isolation. Great. Prognostic indicator. This becomes very important. You see, the median survival time for HCC is 2 to 20 months. And with this particular one, this microRNA is 718. It do confer a very poor prognosis. The higher amounts, the survival rate drops down to almost 8 months. Compared to 14 months, I've written 14, but it's approximately around 20 months. So more the EVR, more aggressive the tumor biology. This marker can actually drive for adjuvant, neoadjuvant, or for solo therapy decisions. For the next part, how do we engineer? Engineer EVs for therapy. I've said inhibit harmful EVs, use EVs as drug carriers, load the small interfering RNAs and the microRNAs with drugs, and you can also turn EVs into vaccines derived from dendritic cells. The Swiss Army knives, as I mentioned in my slide. So there are successes too, therapeutic success stories, where microRNA 122 loaded with EVs did actually restore sorafenib sensitivity. Doxorubicin loaded EVs did have a better targeting and less systemic toxicity that we have with chemotherapeutic agents. And also we have ligand engineered EVs like glycopan-3 with a precision delivery for the cytotoxic T cells. Now, there is a problem out here. Not all that glitters in the lab survives the clinic. To explain this better, you can see this comparative technique snapshot. How shall we get hold or catch hold of the thief? How shall it be the CIA? That's what is there in America, or say MI6 in England. How shall we do it? It's ultracentrifugation, polymer precipitation, site exclusion, and ultrafiltration. And what are they used for? See, for research purposes, ultracentrifugation will be the best for polymer precipitation, and it's best used for screening, for size exclusion, and for other stuff. They can be best used for clinical assays, and ultrafiltration will give you quick assays of where does the patient stand when we try to quantify the quantum of the EVs. So this is a summary of all the 2012 landmark studies that I had. You can see it right there. So the bigger picture. What is the future? The future is simple. Precision hepatology or diagnosis plus liquid biopsy diagnostics Plus, of course, AI will have a low role. I believe my previous speaker has spoken much about AI, artificial intelligence, when she was on robots, I believe. They shall decode the EV language, and we shall get a better picture of a patient who is suffering from HCC. So what are the take-home messages? They are not wastes. Extracellular vesicles, they are not waste. They're whispers of malignancy. They inform, they transform, and can even heal if engineered rightly, or in the context in which I was speaking, and in the next decade, from cellular gossip to clinical gold mine. Right? They are a cellular gossip now. They create the catastrophe. They create the mayhem. They do all and every kind of nonsense, and we can actually transfer them into gold mines for diagnosis and also for the overall prognosis of the patient. To the pleasure. Thank you, and I end my presentation.